Hello everyone and welcome to week number 5. For this week we are going to be focusing on 3 chapters, and those will be on the topics of neurology. The 3 chapters we're focusing on are chapter 25, pages 565 to 576, chapter 37, pages 850 to 853, and chapter 41, pages 938 to 947. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at each of those. So chapter 25 is going to begin our discussion on the neurological system. Now, before you can really get an understanding of your role as a medical assistant, you need to have a better understanding of the system, its functions, and what the structures of that system are. The nervous system is a vital component to all human body function and human body life. It is responsible for transferring information through electrical impulses that will travel all the length of our cells. This will also typically deal with physical exams that could reveal abnormalities in our nervous system. So the function of your nervous system has 3 different parts. It will either detect and interpret sensory information, take that information and make the decisions about it and how it should be received, and then it will carry out another function based off of that decision that were made in the original thought process. So when we talk about the nervous system, it's made up of specialized nerve cells called neurons. There are 3 types of neurons in our body. There are motor neurons, sensory neurons, and interneurons. Motor neurons control most of the body's functions. They cause our muscles to contract, our glands to secrete, and our organs to function. This type of neuron is considered an afferent neuron. That means that they transmit an impulse away from the cell body in the central nervous system to stimulate a muscle, organ, or gland. A sensory neuron are attached to a sensory receptor of the body. They transmit sensory information from those receptors to the central nervous system through the peripheral projection. Sensory neurons lack a true dendrite, and they are sheathed more to closely resemble axons. And lastly, we have our interneurons. They're also called our associative neurons. They are located completely in the central nervous system, and they act as a liaison or a middle person between the sensory and motor neurons. So now that we know the structure of the nervous system, we need to understand that it is made up of 2 systems. The first system is called your central nervous system, or CNS. The second is called your peripheral nervous system, PNS. The central nervous system is composed of your brain and spinal cord. This system will be the one that receives impulses from the entire body and processes the information, and then will come up with a response that is appropriate. If we look at this, our brain has the largest mass of nervous tissue in our body, and it is consisted of 12 cranial nerves. Here are all of the cranial nerves that we have. We have your olfactory, optic, ocular motor, trochlear, and so forth. I would tell you that you should really look into this table in your book, or even print out the PowerPoint that I have up for you and keep this handy. It will come in handy later down the road. Your central nervous system also contains your spinal cord. Your spinal cord extends from the base of your medulla oblongata in your brain to the lumbar vertebrae in your lower back. It has the function to conduct sensory impulses from the rest of your body to your brain, and then send those motor impulses from the brain to the rest of the body. It also serves as a reflex center for all nerve impulses that do not need to pass through our brain. Then we have your peripheral nervous system. This is composed of cranial and spinal nerves that connect to the central nervous system and other parts of the body. The peripheral nervous system is divided further into two parts, either the somatic nervous system or the automatic nervous system. The somatic nervous system is made up of nerves that connect to skeletal muscles, the sensory organs, and the skin. They are referred to as the voluntary nervous system. That means that they connect to muscles and other structures that will voluntarily move with your control. So this system is responsible for sensory information received from your eyes, ears, nose, and touch. Your automatic nervous system is responsible for controlling involuntary functions. That could be things such as sweating, secreting your glands, having arterial blood pressure, smooth muscle tissues, and your heart contractions. When we're talking about the automatic nervous system, it does contain two pieces as well, the sympathetic or the parasympathetic nervous system. I would suggest that you all look up both of those as well. So that is the end of chapter 25. Let's talk about chapter 37. So this chapter will help to explain the medical assistant's role in assisting with neurology. Now we know that the study of the nervous system is called neurology, and a neurologist is a physician who specializes in treating and diagnosing conditions of the nervous system. But you also have a neurosurgeon who is responsible for performing surgical procedures on the nervous system that are required due to injury or disease. You can also see a psychiatrist, who is a physician who treats mental and neurological conditions that affect the behavior. As a clinical medical assistant, you will have duties of things such as rooming your patients and obtaining vital signs, reviewing their history and completing appropriate forms, scheduling appropriate tests or procedures, and preparing the exam room. In these types of exam rooms, you will need to focus on having the patient's conscious state of mind, their reflex response, their motor response, speech pattern, and behavior pattern responses. So you'll need to make sure that you have all of those necessary supplies on hand. And lastly, you have chapter 41. So when this is kind of dealing with how geriatric patients deal with neurology and how they relate. So when we're discussing the geriatric patient, it's important to keep in mind that they could have several different neurological changes. Those could be physical changes, mental changes, confusion, and depression. Physical changes are things that are a continual process that happen from the day that we're born until the day that we pass away. These factors will impact the body's changes, including genetics, lifestyle choices, occupational hazards, their nutritional choices, healthcare services they received or didn't receive, and their physical and social environments. Mental changes are the mental deterioration that is not a normal part of aging. Like most people think, how they react, and how they respond. This does not, however, increase the risk of various physical disorders, like most people think. Mental health refers to the capacity to cope effectively with the lifestyle changes, life stresses, and emotional balances. In order to maintain good mental health, a patient should always remain active and engage in social interactions. Confusion is another term that we use to indicate that a person cannot follow a conversation, answer a question appropriately, understand where they are, remember facts, or make good safety judgments. In this category, we have what we call sundowners. That's a type of confusion that is seen with patients with Alzheimer's or a form of dementia that occur after the sun goes down or at night. And lastly, we have depression, and that's defined as an abnormal and persistent mood characterized by sadness, melancholy, slow mental process, and changes in eating or sleeping habits. Medical depression is confirmed when 5 of the symptoms just listed above, or what I just said, have been present daily for at least 2 weeks. And then we get into some of the common disorders of the nervous system. They can have Alzheimer's or Bell palsy. They could also have dementia. I would tell you to make sure that you're reading both Alzheimer's and dementia to get a better understanding of what the two of those are. They can also have headaches. They can be migraine headaches, tension headaches, or cluster headaches. Headaches do fall into this category, as most of those are occurred because of some sort of brain activity. Patients can have neuralgia or Parkinson's disease. So these are two other ones that we see very commonly. Neuralgia refers to nerve pain, and Parkinson's is something that we hear of very often. Alright, so this is where I'm going to stop for this week's video. As always, please make sure that you read your chapter pages in full, as it will prepare you for your discussion posts, quizzes, and your lab class. For your discussion board this week, you are going to be discussing the two things I just talked about, dementia and Alzheimer's. You'll have to do, like I said, some more research on this to decide whether you think that these two diseases are the same or if they're different. You will need to explain why you think they're the same or why you think that they're different. Please remember that your initial discussion post is always due Tuesdays by midnight, and for this module that would be November 1st. You need to have at least one discussion reply post to your classmates Saturday by midnight, or Saturday, November 5th. And then you also have your quiz this week that's going to be over chapters 25, 37, and 41. This will contain 10 multiple choice questions and have a 10-minute time limit. Your quiz is due Sunday, November 6th by midnight. If you guys have any questions, concerns, or comments, please know that you can always reach out to me, and I look forward to seeing what work you come up with Alzheimer's and dementia this week. This is one of my favorite topics, so I can't wait to see what you guys put out. Have a wonderful week, guys. Bye-bye.